We got done a few little things here today. I've drilled little holes in each bay of the flap. This is the inboard end, that's the outboard end. Drilled the holes on the interior because of the washout or the angle, the dihedral of the wing. Water will flow towards the inside. The flap is in a more down position, so any water that's in this bay will flow to this corner, to this corner. So that's the placement of the holes. I'm going to drill that hole. I drilled those holes. I'm going to put in another coat of varnish on them, and to make sure that I get in that hole and around that hole, because that will be a prime place for rot to occur there. I've got the front edge taped off here that I'm not going to varnish. I'll varnish everything else. I'm leaving that taped because then I can take the tape off and glue on the leading edge around here. So that's where the glue will go for the leading edge on the aileron. You've noticed that I've also put in the geodetics for the aileron, so that's done. I've put in the geodetics on the outboard forward bays of the wing. So those geodetics are done. They're done over here. I'm going to glue in the stiffener here, and we'll have to see what we'll do. There's no place here that it really attaches to. So I'm going to take it and block it and clamp it along that curve so that it's pulled out with that last rib. If you just leave it, it's just going to sit on there. So I'll do a little work to hold that to the outer edge, basically all the way down and around, and then it'll just sit all the way down there and come around that corner. So I'm going to do that today and get it in place. I'll cut another one for the back side here, and that'll just go right in place like that. And that's kind of where we're at today. Since the wing is sitting up like that, it's easy to get to. I'll varnish or varathane or whatever you want to call it, all the geodetics there. I don't think there's anything else left to be glued on other than the hardware, and we can sand little pieces to do that. But it's coming along. That wing is almost there. I mentioned before I've got the bearings for the aileron pivot. I've got the L bracket. I'll have to cut these. I'll machine some holes in there today. I was thinking about the aileron tube as well that will go through the wing there, and how it's mounted on L brackets as well with just a plastic Lexane bearing, I guess you would call it. I don't have the proper plan up here, but it just pivots on right here. Is that one of them? There's another one. There's another one. So there's an L bracket with just a piece of plastic. It's hard to see, but the plastic just acts as a support and as a bushing for the aileron tube to pivot on. I don't like that idea really either as well. Although it's pivoting on plastic of some sort, I just feel that a bearing would be better there as well. I don't know if they make bearings that particular size because it's a tube that's rather large. I can't remember exact diameter. That goes all the way along through there. So you'd have to have a bearing that is at least that big internal diameter that can't be too much bigger on the external diameter to support it. So I'm going to just take a look and see what I can find for that. And I'll let you know. Alrighty, let's do some varnishing and we'll see how far we get. I'm just looking at the hinge for my flap, or my aileron actually. I put the actual measurements there. A, B, C, 1 3/8, 3/4, and 2 1/4, which matches up here with that size. This size, I believe, is what you buy. So you buy 1.5 by 1.5 angle. And then you cut it down to 3/4 by 1.5 and create that angle on there. When you get it in the plans, it might come just like that and you're set to go. But doing it from scratch, you have to buy the angle, and you buy the larger angle, 1.5 by 2, and then you can cut it down to 1.5 by 3/4. You could probably buy 1.5 by 1.5 angle, and then cut it down to the size you need. Just something in the plans that if you're building from scratch, you're kind of scratching your head going, what the heck is going on? So I've got that, and I'm starting to build some hardware and cut some hardware out, and we'll get it attached and we'll be good. I got my helper here today. Kyoya. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are we going to build today? What are we going to build? Well, I'm going to work on some of the hardware stuff. I don't know how Elgie does it. Mine look crappy, but let's see if I can put this down because I don't have a helper with opposable thumbs. I got that cut out. I got a hole drilled in there. Press the bearing in there and it fits nice and snug in there. It's not going anywhere. And that's going to work just fine. We'll be mounting that onto the rear spar. I'm going to make a couple more of those. It's just not nice and round. What I did use for cutting that and the other hardware that we've got there is just the bandsaw with a wood saw in there. It actually cuts through that pretty good. I read up on it. People are using wood saw blades because the thinner, more teeth per inch metal saw blades, the aluminum is fine enough that it clogs up the blades. So a fewer teeth per inch wood blade works better at gnawing through, and it will zip through that in no time at all. So I'm using the wood blade in the bandsaw. I'm not worried about it killing the blade because I would have bought a blade for doing metal work anyway. So I'm going to cut all my metal work with the blade and then see how long it lasts. But that was the trick. One thing I'd recommend, I haven't cut that off the wing yet, and it sure helps when I just want to set the wing up for a minute and work on something else. So we've got a few of the hardware pieces done. I don't know if I've shown you that. There's my little bearing in there. So that will be for the ailerons. I'm going to get at that a little later on. I wanted to get the flap done. I cut a piece of aluminum. I'm assuming the bolts go through this way from the plans here. But the plans are, as usual, a few little things. They don't describe what nuts to use. I'm assuming locking nuts. They call this hinge a DHAF38 here, but on the sheet they've got DHF38. So just so that people aren't totally confused like I am. I cut the holes in there. I don't know how. Algae makes his cut so nice and round. I cut that out and then used a file and got that nice and done. 1/2 inch from the bottom of the flap down to that hole. One other thing with the plans, they've got this. This is just a geodetic that's sitting in there, and I was looking at that, and it says full width. Well, it can't go full width because you run into a piece of plywood that's on there, and putting that little thing just on top of there, I don't think that's going to do a darn bit of good. And on this side, there's nothing to mount it to anyway. You've only got one here. You don't have any other ribs to mount it on here, so you can't put it on this side anyways. So full width to the middle where the flap goes, or the flap horn goes. And that little thing isn't going to do much also. I'm not even going to bother with that. I don't think that in full width, you can't go full width anyway, so I think that's pretty useless. Battery's working. Honestly, these cameras are the worst. Coolpix Nikon B500. 4 batteries, 4 Duracells. I just put in brand new. They last about an hour. So don't buy this camera, ever. Have I said that before? I'm saying it again. Don't buy it. Yeah, so where were we? Make sure that that's varnished. It's going to go over top. You want the back side varnished. The little cutouts, just to touch up the varnish, you're going to have to add a little bit more varnish once you cut that to make sure that the back side is varnished. Question, the aluminum, do we leave it bare? Do we anodize it? Do we powder coat it? Do we paint it? What are people doing with the aluminum to finish it? There's nothing in the plans about it, so that's a question before we cover everything up, what to do with that. The one thing I hate is painting. And the varnishing is a lot like painting. Every time you cut another hole or drill another hole or cut a little bit, you're going to have to go in and varnish around there. So just saying. Now, one thing that the plans aren't really clear about is the hole in the aileron. There's no measurement where to put that hole. So what they say is match the aileron hole up with the hole in the hinge bracket. So I'm assuming they want you to put the hinge in first, fit the aileron, and then cut the hole where it lines up with the hinge. I didn't want to necessarily go there, and mine is a little different since I'm using the little bearing in there. So what I did, I wanted it to be so that the aileron is going to be absolutely flush here I had the hole cut in the L bracket already, and I had, pull that out, this is just a mock-up. I had the bearing put in the L bracket. I'll just pop that off. So all that's been done already. So I mocked it up to where it's supposed to be. And then I just aligned it all with the aileron so that it will fit in there. Obviously, that's going to be bolted onto there. This head's going to be cut off, so it'll just slide through. It'll slide through the L bracket. That jam nut's not supposed to be on that side, it's supposed to be on this side. So that'll, L bracket will fit flush there. I just put it on like that to hold it. And from that, I got the measurement where to cut the hole in the aileron. So, much to do about nothing really. Again, I've just got this little piece on there that I'll have to glue on and then varnish it on the inside, cut the hole in there, varnish that out again. I'm just going to put this on afterwards because I'll have to get all that done first. It's a lot of piddly little stuff that has to wait for one thing then to the other. In the instructions it says finish per plants. That's one sentence that has 90% of the work of the stupid flaps and ailerons all to do with just finish per plans, and it leaves a little to be desired, but we're working our way along there and we'll update you as we go. That looks better. So the L bracket is going to fit right against there. The head will be cut off of that, and this will be screwed onto there just with a nubbin sticking out of there with that head cut off, and it'll just slide into position like that. That's not a jam nut, I just got a regular nut on there. That's going to be skinnier so that this will fit closer. But that's the way it is going to look, and that's going to, what does Algie say? That's going to be smoother than the belly of a snake or something. Or as we say in Canada, slicker than snot on a doorknob. That's how that's going to work. And you can see it pivoting on that bearing on there. That's just going to be a nice way of doing it.